Today we're talking about a textile by Dre McLeod. It's called Petite Tempest, and it's about 3 feet wide by 5 feet tall.
So this is one of the very first pieces of art that we actually commissioned with the Lafayette Flats in mind, and we had a very specific reason for looking for this piece.
When we were working on the renovation and the design for Lafayette Flats, we wanted to incorporate the traditional West Virginia arts, but not in necessarily a traditional way. We knew we wanted quilts, obviously, to be represented since that has such a rich Appalachian and West Virginia history. So we saw a show by Dre McLeod at Apartment Earth Gallery. We saw her beautiful and very different textile work, and we were interested in having one of her pieces in a custom size. So we contacted her and commissioned this piece that's based off of a larger one that we saw at the show. Hence the name. This is Petite Tempest. The one that we saw at the show was Tempest.
And the reason it's called Tempest is it's one of those things you have to see it in person to really understand. It's pixelated, so when you're looking at it from very close, you cannot really tell much about the overall design. But the further away you get from it, the more obvious it becomes. And I'll just spill it. It's actually a cloud with 2 lightning bolts coming out of it. But the closer you get, the more detail you try to see it, the harder it gets.
And the word you use, pixelated, that's exactly what I mean by kind of representing old traditional artwork in new ways. I love that all of her images kind of look like pixelated digital images, but they're translated to, very traditional textile work. I think that's fascinating, and that's a very modern take on Appalachian art.
That's true, and if you look at this thing up close, the details of it looks like a traditional Appalachian quilt. The needlework and the backing that's on it and everything, it has the feel and look of an Appalachian quilt. But when you look at the actual fabric that she selects for it, that's when it really gets non-traditional. Part of the fabric are little skull and crossbones, which makes up part of the storm cloud, which I think is just a neat foreboding that it has.
She uses interesting swatches of fabric in all of her work, and she does a lot of interesting subjects in her work. If you look, she has an Etsy shop that you can check out, or her Instagram page, and she often will have scarab beetles, or I know she had an Edgar Allan Poe quilt. She's had skull and crossbones. So her subject matter is very interesting as well.
And I love the name of her Etsy shop and her website, toolegittoquilt.com.
Yes, so that is the best name ever.
Well, we are very happy with this piece. It fits perfectly in the hallway in the 3rd floor of Lafayette Flats. We've actually moved it around a couple of times since we put it in, but it's found a new home right at the top of the stairs when you're walking up to the 3rd floor, and it really makes a tremendous impact on the viewer. As soon as you turn the bottom of the steps, that's what you're seeing, and it's just a neat spot for it.
Something that we mentioned in this podcast that we've talked about several times, we learned about Dre from Apartment Earth Gallery, and I think that warrants pointing out. Mm-hmm. Nick Bodkin, the owner of Apartment Earth, he does a really good job of showing new artists and exposing their work to new markets. Not only have we acquired several pieces from his gallery, but just the amount of artwork we've been exposed to from new and emerging West Virginia artists is fantastic, and we really appreciate that Nick does that, because that's pretty rare for the West Virginia community, and we love it.
And we have a few pieces of Nick's art as well that we'll be sharing on future episodes of Untitled.